When you open our supply start image, it's a DNG file, a digital negative, so it's going to open up in the Camera Raw editor, and we can now use the basic panel to improve the shot's colours and tones to bring out missing detail and create more vibrant colours. We can see with the naked eye there's lots of strong shadows here, but not much detail, and you can also see those strong shadows in the histogram as well. So we could try opening up the aperture in effect by dragging exposure to the right, and that is letting us see much more detail in these areas here, but it's blowing out detail in the highlights as well. So we need to make some more selective tonal adjustments. So I'm going to click Default to go back to the original settings. So there's lots of selective tonal adjustments to be made using these sliders here, but which slider do we need to lighten up these areas here? Well, if we go to the strongest part of the histogram, you can see that it's either blacks or shadows. So I'm going to go down to the shadow slider, and if I drag that to the right, you can see that it's lightening up the shadows in the image, and the histogram is sliding more towards the middle where the midtones are, which means the midtones are stronger, and we've got more detail in those midtones as well. So up at 100 here, we've now revealed more midtone detail by dragging this slider to the right. So this slider here has lightened up the shadows without messing around with the highlights. So we haven't blown out these highlights in this section here, and we haven't touched this part of the histogram here. But you can selectively lighten or darken the brightest highlights or the darkest shadows using these two sliders here, or claw back missing highlight detail using this slider here. In fact, I'm just going to drag that down a little bit in case there's more detail in the clouds that we can't quite see. And we can also increase midtone contrast to bring out delicate textures and details by dragging clarity to the right. So we take this to around about 50 or so. This just gives the midtone rocks and the water much more punch. Let me click here to show you the before. You can see lots more detail in those underexposed shadows, and the clarity sliders increase the midtones in the clouds as well, just to tease out some of the delicate cloud detail there. Click here to cycle back to the original version again, like so. And below clarity, we've got vibrance and saturation. Now, if you boost saturation, it boosts the strength of the colours overall. And while that makes the sky look a little bit bluer, it's making the very vibrant colours in the grass look oversaturated and probably unprintable. So I'm going to take that back down to 0. And if I use vibrance, that's very good for landscapes because that will boost greens and blues without boosting other colours in the shot. And it's also very good at selectively boosting weaker colours without oversaturating stronger ones. So if I drag that to the right, you can see the sky is getting bluer, but it's not making such a difference to the already vibrant looking grass. And finally, we've got a little bit of a magenta tint in the shadows there. So what we can do is go up to here and reduce the tint slider towards the green slightly to just counteract that magenta tint. And we can also try and warm up this rather cold area here by just pushing temperature to the right slightly, like so. Let's click to see the before and the after, and you can see there's quite a difference there between our raw digital negative and our processed picture. So if you're happy, you can click Done and it will remember all these slider settings, or you can click Open Image to take it into Photoshop's main editor and carry on editing it if need be. So that's the basic tab.